Good. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the October 18th BOCC meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, again, good morning, everybody, and welcome. First thing we have on our agenda is our minutes. Gentlemen, do we have any additions or corrections?
I do not.
I move we approve the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado, October 11th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County, October 11th, 2022. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next up, we have our planning department. And only seeing one item on this agenda? Gosh, that's good. And you have new mics for your press conference for everybody to speak to?
I guess so. We need more people up here. So our agenda item is a setback variant, well, not a setback, but a less than 10 acre minimum parcel variance requirement. There's an existing 1.32 acre lot up in the Stapleton, or the Butler subdivision.
It was created in 1959.
And part of the old subdivision that was created 60-some years ago. They are wanting to do a boundary line adjustment with their neighbor to the north. So they would pick up that triangle piece that crosses the river. They're on the east of their property, and a little triangle piece to the west that would actually give them property line to the road that runs there. It's a little bit less than a half an acre they'd pick up from the neighbor to the north. But being grandfathered in at 1.32 acres, we'd need a variance to approve it to be less than 10, but it is getting bigger.
Significantly less than 10, but that was way prior to the
Oh yeah,
to the DRV.
that's one of those subdivisions that nothing's compliant with the land use code now, but they're not trying to build next to the river or do something different that way. They're just squaring up their property and getting access actually to the river and to the roadway there.
So my question, basically on the roadway, the river makes, I mean, that's easy, and they're just trying to get access to the river, and that's understandable. But is that the yellow line where they're wanting to go instead of the red line?
Correct.
The red line is where they're at. But
Correct.
does that encroach into the right of way or the easement there?
It's a
No,
roadside road.
it's a red road that actually goes through that property on the north. It's not, I mean, it's a subdivision road, but it's not really designated with its own right of way, and
So it's a private drive?
it's a private drive for that
Basically.
subdivision, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess I just don't want to see the road shrunk, because if you get emergency services up there,
Right.
you're going to have difficulties getting.
No, nothing's gonna change, access driveway wise. It's just to square that up, so I guess they're using the road as a boundary and then across the river. But to make it compliant, if it needs to have the variance granted, and then we'll continue on through with the subdivision amendment.
To increase it, and then the subdivision amendment,
Correct.
right? Because the house has been there for,
Yeah, I think that one was built in early 2000s. From from what they say, and I don't know what size residence was there before.
Okay. Questions,
No.
gentlemen?
I don't have any problems with it.
Okay. All
That's
right.
basically it.
I move we accept the variance application submitted by Henes Enterprises LLC on property located at 24114 Road 37, Dolores, Colorado.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the variance application submitted by Henes Enterprises LLC on property located at 24114 Road 37, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 1.32 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank
Okay.
you.
And I also have the variance application for you to, the variance document for you to sign.
Okay. All right. Any other items?
I do have an update on the Love's Travel Stop, property. They have completed their, surcharge loading of that site. Now they will monitor it pretty much all winter. I don't know, that they put in the perimeter drain around the property for groundwater, or if they just did some monitoring wells, but they're monitoring it and they won't start construction till next spring. Sometime next spring, I'll get back in touch with Mel and them and see if they're gonna waste that material off that site, if they'll haul it to the landfill and we can use it for our composting pad, or at least fill in parts of that. Depends, Mel may have all the low spots filled in by the time they get their 100-day minimum surcharge done, but we'll just keep in touch and see if we can utilize some of that material if the landfill needs it. Because Mel was predicting about 30,000 yards for him to try and level that compost pad before he builds the clay liner of the pad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of material.
Right.
And then I heard back from CDPHE on the Elegant Hills Mobile Home Park. They're still working with them for compliance issues and a mitigation remediation plan. The latest that was provided to CDPHE is a cost analysis, a system analysis by Sauter Miller. And the best viable option, cost-wise, time-wise, would be to work something out with the sand district and run a sanitation line out there. The state would like to also have Vista Verde Village connect into that. But it's gonna cost several $1 million, obviously. The influent meter and the outlet meter aren't coinciding with that mobile home park. So the other option would be to reline those ponds, which is still a pond system, so for the same amount or more money, it's more cost effective if the sand district can do something with the line. But sounds like the state's gonna try and do some searching, resource funding for grants, some help throughout.
How far away is their sanitary system? It goes.
I think it stops there at Mesa Verde Motorsports, or what's it called, the Fun Center?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's about the end
That's
of it.
going down CDOT's right away. What about on Empire Street? Is there any potential that they could get a line going across that way?
That I don't know. I didn't really look and see what in the path that they were looking to take. I think it's probably the same distance either way. CDOT might be easier because you're not crossing private property and obtaining easements and that type of issues, but anyway, that's gonna take several million in time. But I know the Sand District has looked at that. Funding's obviously the biggest hurdle right now. Nobody's gonna just cough up 5 or 6 million. But that would get that property in compliance and would help Vista Verde Village out as well, because they've got some ammonia issues with their system.
Is it increasing their issues? Because they haven't added any.
No,
They haven't
theirs
added
is
anything.
just within the right parameters per the state. They've got a variance in place, so they're operating under that variance. So their system is acceptable and permissible with that variance, but they'd just like to see both those systems eliminated. I don't think you can permit a pond system like that anymore. If you're grandfathered in, there's ways to continue that with work and testing and sampling and engineering, but yeah, they'd like to kill both two birds with one stone and just get that all tied in. Plus, it would just extend possibility for development along that corridor in the future.
So that's all in CDPHE's hands right now anyway with Elegant Hills?
Yeah, it's not even through our health department, but
Okay.
nobody else is tracking it, so I am.
Okay. Very good. Keep us posted on that.
All right.
I think that's just an ongoing battle that's gonna be there for a long time until
Yeah.
somebody puts a line out there. Okay,
All right.
sounds good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have our public comment session. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments. And comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time to others. And with that, the public comment session is open.
Good morning. My name is Kim Haas. I live at 16832 Highway 145 in Dolores. Last night, I read a posting on the media platform next door of an email sent to one of the commissioners from a county resident expressing concerns about the notification process to the public pertaining to land use code changes. She stated that she does not consider herself a dummy, yet struggles to locate information that should be readily available. My husband and I share her concerns. We attended a BOCC meeting several months ago with the Joneses' major subdivision proposal on Road 26 in Dolores on the agenda. It was postponed to a date to be determined. This property is adjacent to property we own on Road 26. There were at least a dozen neighbors present at this meeting, all of us prepared to speak out against the proposal. Although I don't know them all personally, I don't think any of us are dummies. Not a single one of us was present at the BOCC meeting when the Joneses' proposal was again on the agenda and approved. One of the commissioners told my husband on the phone that he was surprised no one was present. I would think that would be a glaring indication that there is a flaw in the process. And now we have a subdivision of manufactured homes being put into a neighborhood that currently only has or allows stick-built homes. And it's being developed by a guy who owes $100,000 in taxes. I sure wouldn't do business with this type of person. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with that, then I am going to close the public comment session. And we will move right into public safety. Sheriff Nowlan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Stay. It's got legs. What'd you do to it? Look at that, Travis. Holy smokes, buddy. Okay.
Can you shut that door, please?
These are the calls for service for the month of September of 2022. We had 1,490 calls for service. That's even with me losing 3 patrol deputies that one went into the Army, actually another one went to Arizona, and another one to Bayfield. This also shows the quarters, the third quarter numbers total for those quarters. For this year, there was 4,752. Last year, 4,514, that same period of time in that quarter. And as you can see, probably the highest there was in 2019, 4,932. Probably some of the most important ones is, again, which affects the county clerk's office. We did 132 VIN inspections on vehicles to be titled and registered here. 151 traffic stops. Our livestock on the roadway and at large are still considerable. Not surprising as we're moving into fall moving seasons and whatnot, bringing animals down to pastures. But we've been working pretty closely with the brand inspector and we're getting these owners identified. That helps. Pretty much that's it. Do you have any questions about anything with our calls for service in the month of September?
Nope.
Okay. For the jail, in the month of September, we had total number of 1,564 hours plus in transports, 11 transports in the month of September. 2,987 miles were traveled in those transports. Some of those are 4 different transports with juveniles back and forth to Grand Junction. Per diem costs for those 11, 4 deputies, you can see the total cost is $181. For the month of September, this will show what our population counts were per day, starting out September the 1st at 85, all the way up to 90 on September the 8th. Right now we're holding at about 77. Oops, sorry, got away from me there. Breakdown of inmates per day. This shows arrests, 13 arrests like on the September the 1st, 6 releases, on and on throughout the entire month there that you'll see that it changes. So it's constantly in and out. There was 129 total arrests, or total days anyway. that were used, 147 arrests, 141 releases. For the month of September, City of Cortez, you can see how many we've had in there. Highest amount was 2 of them with 14 days. Total count is 63 days at $100. City of Cortez was billed $6,300. For Dolores County, we've got 4 inmates there in the month of September. Again, 23 days for 2 of them were the longest. One was serving a sentence. Actually, all of them were. Total of 58 days at $100. They were billed $5,800. DOC holds are going down from last month, as you saw. Total number of days that we had in there were 30. One was transported pretty much immediately with those 3. Department of Corrections was charged for 49 days at $4,900. And this is the monthly cost for the month of September. Pretty much outlines everything that I just explained. Total prisoner cost is $241,600. And the fees that were paid, the sheriff's fees that were collected and transferred to the county treasurer are listed here. And the total was $23,946.83. Any questions about the jail report?
No, other than the 30 days for the DOC, that still seems like an absorbent amount of time that we're holding
Yeah.
those people.
Yeah, again, we're pretty much at when they'll accept them, when they have openings. No telling where they're going to and what's going on, where they're at, where they're headed to. That's generally what the hangup is. But we are starting to see that open up, so that's a good sign. But it's back and forth, up and down.
Okay.
I do have a grant budget that we were just awarded 2 days ago, receiving the award for this training equipment from the Department of Justice grant that we put in for this virtual reality de-escalation and reaction training equipment. It's pretty high technology that we were very fortunate to get $67,500 from Department of Justice for this equipment. So this is a budget a grant budget that I'd like to ask for approval. It actually began September the 1st according to the award letter, but like I said, didn't get it but a couple of days ago. It runs for 2 years, August the 31st, 24, but this would be expended within this year for that piece of equipment.
Question?
No.
Comment?
You're looking for approval to expend those funds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Move we expend the DOJ Just Grants number 15 JCOPS-22-GG-04824-PPSE funds in the amount of $67,500 for the sheriff's office.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept the DOJ justice grants with Montezuma County Sheriff's Office in the amount of $67,500. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
What I have, the last thing I have here for you is Southern Health Partners. From what we discussed last month, they are here to actually go over what their services will provide and any questions that you have with them. So I'd like to ask for them to come on up. You get the comfy chairs. And, I'll let you introduce yourself to the commissioners.
And just turn on the mic and you're good to go. Pull it as close as you can. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
My name's Tim Quintana. I'm the Regional Sales Manager for Southern Health Partners. This is Amber Fender. She's our Regional Nursing Supervisor for the state of Colorado, and would be, if we're fortunate enough to get a contract with Montezuma County, she would be the direct supervisor for the facility that would provide the medical care for the inmates in the jail. We currently have 7 other counties in the state of Colorado that we do service with, and our company's been in business for 28 years. We feel like we're one of the leaders in inmate health care, and we've been talking with the sheriff for quite a while. He's a pretty thorough young man, and he does his homework and his research, and we wouldn't be here if I feel like he feels like we're the best solution for the county to provide inmate health care. We would staff the jail with a nurse, similar to what you have now, but it would be under Amber's supervision, bringing along all of our infrastructure, our policies, our protocols, our training, our support, our entire network. We also would provide the pharmaceuticals, the in-house provider of medicine. The doctor would come every week, and the proposal that the sheriff selected is an 8-hour day, 7 days a week program. And I feel like y'all have got the proposal in front of you. If you have specific questions about it, I'll be glad to answer them. Amber's also available to answer any kind of technical or medical questions that you may have. It is a comprehensive package of medical services that we feel like minimizes cost, saves the county money by minimizing transports, by practicing proactive medicine in the jail. So we've got a lot of experience. As I said, we're in 28 years of business. We're in 14 states, and we're proud to be in Colorado right now. The closest county that we have that we do business with is La Plata County, but we're also in Delta, Gilpin, Kit Carson, Lincoln, Summit, and Teller counties. And the sheriffs and the people that work in those facilities really are our best testimony to what kind of business model we have and how good we are with our follow-through of our company. Any questions about any of that? I hate to just be a one.
I really don't have any questions. I know this was brought up a couple weeks ago. Well, maybe probably more like a month ago. I mean, it was presented by our sheriff, and I think we pretty much hashed it out at that point in time. I don't have any questions right now. I think it's, obviously we have to provide the service to our jail and to the inmates in there, and I think it would work for us.
Okay. In visiting with the sheriff yesterday, I know we have a contract here, available for your review, and we would usually ask for a 60-day ramp up to start for hiring and things like that. And we would anticipate, if the commission chooses to go with us, that we would start service on January 3rd of 2023. So what we would do is, once we get the signed contract, then we would have our president back at our corporate office in Chattanooga sign it, and we would send the commission an executed copy, and we would start our preparations. We would have boots on the ground in the facility prior to that time frame to start the process and preparation so that come January 3rd, we hit the ground running.
Okay. Well, you can see where we obviously sent the contract to. It goes right straight to our attorney first,
Yes, sir.
before we can
Yes,
do
sir. Understand,
make
totally.
any decisions based on that. But
Totally understand, sir. Yes, sir. My number and contact information is on the front page of our proposal down at the bottom. That's my cell phone and my email address. I'm available at any given time. The sheriff knows how to get hold of us, and we, you know, are very, very appreciative of an opportunity to partner with Montezuma County.
Okay. Very good. Questions, commissioners at all?
One thing I'd like to bring up, though, that we had some discussions over everything yesterday. And I'll have him explain part of in those things that they're going to provide, but there's also a copay system that they want to have implemented for the inmates for copays. And so I'll let them explain that, and it sounds like something that we might want to really run into and jump onto. It may help very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, the copay system, sometimes when you're reading through this, you go, a copay system, you know, we're already paying them. This is an internal system that we charge the inmates for when they put in a request for sick call. It can be a nominal fee of $5 to $7.50 to $10, whatever the sheriff wants. We don't want that money. What that is a filtering system, because this may come as a shock, but sometimes those people that are incarcerated will tell a fib, all right? Like, well, I want to go see the nurse for whatever reason, and if you charge them a little bit of something, they have to make a decision whether to go see the nurse or save that money to buy a honey bun. And we find that that simple filtering system stops a lot of frivolous sick calls. And so we kind of like to have that in place at every facility so that, you know, if they're sick, we want to give them care and treatment and do the right thing, don't get me wrong. But if they're just, you know, kind of, you know, trying to do it, if they have to make a decision on whether they get some kind of commissary food or go see the nurse, it seems to help us filter through some frivolous calls. And that's what that's about. That money can go into the inmate trust fund or whatever kind of internal account. Southern Health Partners doesn't want to see that money. That's just a screening system that we utilize.
But it's also not, it doesn't take the place of, if it's an emergency, they don't get charged. If it's a chronic care where they're being seen for high blood pressure or whatever, they also don't get charged. So this is just cuts down on the frivolous stuff, but it's not
Yes.
across the board.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Who makes the determination when an inmate's
So-
charged versus when they're not?
So if they put in a sick call, and it's something that, you know, we've got to see them and do an assessment, then they're charged. If it's an emergency and we're getting called to the cell block, they're not going to get charged. So it's like, oh, I have a ingrown toenail, or, you know, I have a toothache or whatever. Those are the kind of sick calls that get charged. And then there's also a fee on the copay if you want that the provider, the doctor, there's a doctor visit, a nurse visit, just kind of like if you're on the outside, you have that accountability, you know, for yourself.
I can just tell you from where I've been in the past, the frivolous calls are huge. So the minute they get brought in to be booked or incarcerated for us, you know, they always knew I have chest pains, or I can't breathe, which automatically then activates the EMS system, gets them out of jail for another 8 to 10 hours because now they have to be evaluated, and 99% of those were probably always frivolous.
So we
And
do
it takes a lot of
an
resources.
intake screening. When they come in, we do a full intake screening on them. Vitals, ask them if there's anything going on, and it's a 2-page thing. And they're not charged for that. So we do a full assessment when they come in.
Mm-hmm.
Then at 10 days, we bring them into medical and we do a full history and physical, okay? They're not charged for that. This is that, okay, you've had your history and physical, you've had your intake screening, you never said anything about
Right.
this sore rib, and now you're putting in a sick call, now you're gonna get charged. You've had multiple opportunities to disclose issues, and now you're just wanting a trip to the nurse's office or a trip to the hospital, and that's just that kind of thwarts that a little bit. But no, they still have plenty of opportunities without being charged to disclose any issues.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like the county attorney just to review that and give some recommendations.
Yeah, I'll review the language. I mean, I certainly understand the practicality of it. The idea does give me some cause for hesitation, and we certainly don't want people to not reach out and seek medical care because they're fearful of a fee. And that's the kind of thing that can cause us some problems. So I'll
You know,
review the language.
That's a recommendation. That's not anything set in stone. That is a recommendation that we have the county consider within the system. If y'all do not want to have that, then we'll start keeping numbers on it if we're fortunate enough to be chosen, and then we'll present monthly reports on the different amount of calls with the system or without the system, if that's something that there's some kind of concern about. But it's based on our experience in the business for 28 years that we recommend that.
It makes total sense. I mean,
Yes,
when
sir,
you think
absolutely.
about it in a practical, from a practical standpoint, there's just some legal elements
Sure,
that probably
I
need to be
totally-
considered as well.
Totally understand, sir.
Facility-wise, are we gonna have to make changes?
I wouldn't think, as far as physical changes, no, sir, I don't believe so. We will operate within the confines of what's there now and set up our shop, and there will be some changes internally in the office, the medical office area, but it's not going to be any kind of, any physical changes whatsoever that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Yeah, the medical room is the medical room. Nothing changes.
Yes, sir.
I was just concerned about different, if they were, with this type of system, if we were gonna have different drugs and stuff available there, that would be,
We
Yeah.
will use a medical supply company that we partner with in the effort to save county money. We buy in bulk nationwide, so we're going to pass those savings along to the county at no cost to the county. We do that with every facility that we have. So that will be a cost savings straight from the start. We still will contract with a local pharmacy too for emergent needs of meds if needed. So we cover both those bases, both the savings in the pharmaceutical area, but also, a local business partner as well.
Sheriff, now, I think Commissioner Copenhaver asked a good question. Do we need to upgrade our security on our drugs out there?
No, it's pretty well secured.
Okay,
Yeah, there's going to be additional policies or procedures as well as training, which gives us time to do that between now and the end of the year, to do that and working with them hand in hand. But as far as security for that, it's always been secure.
okay.
Yeah. And nothing needs to be changed.
And the only other question that I have is liability coverage.
Yes, sir.
Do you have your own legal teams?
Yes, sir,
Just-
we
Just
do.
to make double
Yes, sir.
sure.
Yes, sir. We have a $1 million liability policy for every incident that would occur in the facility, a $5 million total for the year that comes with every contract that we sign. So the county would be totally indemnified with the policy, and that is, part of the contract. Yes, sir. Good question.
And
Okay.
that is explained in
Yeah.
the contract. We went through it page by page, so.
Well, it'll get gone through page by page again now.
Yes.
Yep. So, time-wise, you want me to return when?
I can go through it and have comments to you later in the week, and we should be able to get on the agenda for next week.
That's up to you, whatever you'd like.
Next
one way or
week
the
is
other.
fine,
Yeah,
as long as it gives you enough time.
yeah, I can get comments out within the next couple days, and then we can look through it and
So
tentatively plan for
we
next
somewhat
week.
have it under unfinished business today. We'll just continue it to unfinished business next week.
What's that?
We'll put it to unfinished business next week.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? We good?
Nope.
No, not that way.
Okay,
Thank you,
all.
folks.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have coroner's report.
Well, good morning.
Morning,
Morning.
George. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Been dealing with some fun stuff. I have September's numbers there. September's normally a slow month, which last year it was riding right with this one. We had 8 cases in September. We had 4 hospice cases and did 11 autopsies. And that brings the totals to date. They changed since last Friday afternoon whenever I turned this in. Now we're at a total of 187 cases. We've had 4 since Friday. And 63 of those were the hospice deaths. 124 of them were coroner cases. 5 motor vehicle accidents. Suicides, over the weekend, it jumped up 1 more. And we have one from last weekend that's most likely going to be a suicide also, but we're waiting on toxicology. The last 2 Sundays been kind of bad. 2 Sundays ago, we had a vehicle that was, well, a missing persons report that aired on Sunday, and then the vehicle was found up on Mancus Hill, and the gentleman had been deceased in there for 3 weeks. So we had to deal with that one, and then we had another one this Sunday, no missing persons report, but a welfare check on a vehicle up above Boggy Draw, and that individual been there for a couple of weeks, and that one definitely suicide. So it's been kind of hard. They're both of them from out of state, trying to track down next kin. Finally, at 8 o'clock last night, did get a hold of the next kin for the individual from Sunday, but overdoses, that's jumped up to 10 now. I got a couple of tox reports in, and that's jumped up to 10. Homicides were still holding tight at 5, and then autopsies were up to 150 autopsies for the year.
How many of those are from Plata County, George? Because I know they were coming over right, and then they were building their new facility.
Yes. As far as numbers, I don't have the total number of those right here, but big majority of
Because
them.
they're still coming here, right?
Yeah.
Until they get
Yeah,
their,
we're doing one in the morning for
their
them.
facility that's, I don't know if they're ever gonna get it completed, are they?
I don't know. They're supposed to have it done last year, and they're supposed to have it done this year, and now they're not sure.
It's under construction though, right?
Yeah, they're
If I
just trying to
remember.
figure out how to get people into it. It's elevated, kind of like what ours is.
Mhm.
It's a modular, double wide. They even come over and looked at our ramp last fall and trying to figure out how to do it, and they just haven't got it completed yet. And that's all they have to do is figure out a way to get them in there. They tried to build a ramp with a winch on it out of steel to hoist them up the ramp, and that didn't work out. So now they're back to trying to figure out how to do concrete.
So they may have it open by the end of the year.
Maybe, maybe not, the way it's been going. Jan said she has no idea. That they're telling her that they're gonna have it open any day, and then they can't get anybody to bid on it, and then they find somebody to bid on it, well, then they don't have time to do it, and I don't know, it sounds like it's a mess. But we did have a pathologist come down from Grand Junction, Rob Kurtzman. He used to do our cases, and then he went to Montana for medical investigator for the state. He retired this spring, moved back down, and he's covering whenever Dr. Arnall is gone. And he came down and did some autopsies at our facility, and he said that he's going to talk to Arnall about covering maybe 1 week a month for him. And he said that he won't be going over there. All autopsies will be done at our facility. He said he loves it, and everybody that's been in there does. So he's impressed with it.
Yeah, I was just curious because I remember when we had originally talked that obviously La Plata County was in the process of just getting it approved at that point in time, but, you know, how much, you know, what do you think it's gonna dwindle after they get theirs put together?
I haven't heard anything back from, Emil up in Telluride, but he's talking like he's wanting to start coming down here because he's having to go all the way to Grand Junction right now. So we'd be, hopefully be picking those up. La Plata County, maybe 80 of them, maybe? Somewhere in there? I just have to look. I'm not
Well,
sure.
just look.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to answer off the top of your head, just look.
okay.
Okay.
So, you guys,
You probably don't know this, but when they closed Purple Cliffs, did that affect their autopsy count at all? Do you know? You have any idea?
Purple Cliffs.
That's their homeless camp over there.
No,
Okay.
no. There's, just trying to think, I think that they've only had maybe 3 or 4 homeless people they've done autopsies on,
Okay.
and they've just kind of been scattered out throughout the area, or throughout the year. And then I do have one gentleman that we're probably gonna end up having to pay for his cremation. He passed away 2 months ago, and he has no next of kin. He was a single child. His mother and father both were single children. They're both deceased, and the guy he was living with, he always told him that there was nobody left to carry on the family name, and he never was married, never had any kids. So I'm still looking, giving it time, hoping somebody will come forward, and not having any luck yet. So,
Okay.
any other questions?
No.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy your day.
Thanks.
All right, thanks. I don't see Clarissa.
She'll be coming in, I think, about 10:15.
Okay, well, we'll just go down to Mr. Spratlin. Welcome home. Long time no see.
Usually ask, did you miss me? And the answer is, were you gone? So, quick update. My sit report, well, I wasn't able, of course, to get that out, but looking at everything while I was gone, the indices, fire going down, our fire threats pretty well there, pretty much gone. We're gaining our water back and all the water supplies. It's dropping a little, but we had that discussion that I think let's see here. So the groundhog, still working on that main gate. They're probably gonna be completed pretty soon. Jackson is probably, it's dropped a little, but not bad at all. They got plenty of water for everybody there. And Narragansett, of course, is full. McPhee, it's dropping very slowly, but that's just the water flowing out. I think the Utes are probably gonna turn the water off for them. It was supposed to be in mid-October. And then I think MVI is closing it next week, I think we talked about. So we're doing really well with the water issue. Let's see. I haven't researched it, but COVID was a little bit on the rise this last couple of weeks, but I haven't researched any of that to see some statistics on that. The mobile substation, we just talked, I think the board had a meeting, and we're gonna try to unplug the mobile station that's giving power to the Mancus area and try it again on the new transformer that's been repaired, November 9th.
Yes,
at
November 9th.
11:30 at night.
I think in 11:30 to about 3:30. It's a 4-hour window that's scheduled. Shouldn't take that long a period of time, but they always open that window just in case something goes wrong,
Okay.
in case they have to reconnect.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And haven't heard much on Denver Air. I guess they're up and running October 1st.
They are up and running. My first flight, I'll give you a synopsis of it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then I was met by a gentleman in church on Sunday that, but I'll get to that. So, obviously, when I flew out of here last Wednesday, there were quite a few storm clouds and bubbles that we had to get through, so I was delayed 3 hours getting to Denver, which was not a big deal, other than I missed my evening meeting, which, you know, I'd rather be safe than sorry, not a big deal. However, getting back Sunday, I was delayed for 7 hours and didn't get out of Denver until about 4:30 and home by 5:30 or something like that, which was right in the middle of another storm. So, obviously can't do anything, but,
Right.
we did get in and we did get out, so, hopefully the storms will, not that I'm complaining about the storms either. So don't
Right.
get me wrong, we all need, it's a blessing, it's just a matter of, you know, I hear some people say, you know, they're just angry because they didn't get out on time, but look at the conditions of what you're flying through,
Right.
and sometimes be a little bit appreciative of, hey, we're not gonna take off if we can't get through there safely. So for me, it didn't really matter, the delays are the delays, I dealt with it, and still made all my major meetings in Denver last week, so
Right.
I think they'll get everything ironed out, and
If they were pretty
do good.
booked, because I couldn't fly out here or Durango, I had to go to Montrose to get out. And then, but I'm hearing that they're working well,
yeah.
somewhat,
I
depending on the
I
storm.
think it's just a matter of the storms, you know, they'll have to deal with that.
So we should check with you and see when you're flying so we can make other
Make
arrangements.
different
guess.
arrangements. Good. And then the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP, you guys had a chance to review it. Did you guys sign that yet?
No, I don't.
Not yet, okay.
I don't
I'll get
think
with
so.
James. He did most all that work, so I'll get with him and see where we're at with that. It's completed, been through all the stakeholders, you guys had a copy, so. Submitted my third quarter EMPG grant, and the grant award we finally got in October, when it's, you know, ready. We're working on it January, but the grant award came in, we signed that, so that's up and running. See, I'm gonna be working on those generator grant coming up, if I can get a hold of people in the state. We did do the education on the public. We went to all the farmers markets. The only one I missed was Mancus. It was in the middle of a rainstorm and nobody showed up, and I was off running doing something else, but it came out real good. We got a lot of information out there on emergency management, so it was good, especially the access functional needs people to sign up, so it worked real well. It was good timing. It was National Preparedness Month, so it was perfect timing for that. And then last night, we just finished radio training, Mancus Fire, so that came out really good. But everything else, Vicki had the helm, and she did a great job. Nothing major happened, so pretty pleased with that. Yeah. So I threw this together. My phone wouldn't download a lot of photos. You don't need to be having a million photos, but I was going to give you a quick overview. So on Monday night, we were told to call in, find out the status of where we're going in Florida. The joke was, oh yeah, we're leaving in the morning. Yeah, sure. Well, we did. It was 6 a.m. when we took off. I didn't take off then. I actually had the later flight, but everybody had to hurry up and pack, get all their gear ready, and take off. So starting Wednesday, I think it was the 26th, 25th, 26th. Anyway, this is our team. They picked members from the Southwest management team, which was me and 3 others. They picked some people from the Boulder team, from Jeffco team, and we formed what the state called the Colorado Incident Management Team, and we were representing Colorado, and I was representing very well. Everybody knew where we were, Mesa Verde, Cortez. They had a pretty good idea where the Four Corners was. So we took off. Go ahead, boss. So we landed in Tallahassee, and I don't have a lot of download pictures, but in Tallahassee, we got there super late at night. First thing in the morning, we went to the State Emergency Ops Center to find out what's going on. And go ahead. And we spent some time there trying to figure out what our mission was. They finally decided that they wanted us to set up a logistical support area, LSA. So we took off from there, next photo, and we started driving, and we noticed this truck was tied down with a strap holding that truck onto the bed of that truck. There was a lot of humor and a lot of sadness in this mess. A lot of people traveling south to try to fix the problem. So we were there before the hurricane, and then in Tallahassee, it was hitting Fort Myers at that time. So we weren't quite ready to go into that mess until it cleared up.
Did anybody talk to this driver about his load?
Yeah, overweight load.
Well, a little, it's leaning.
Yeah, it is leaning a little. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. So after we got our mission, they said we had to head out. And the next slide, they wanted us in Ocala. And we were going to set an LSA up there. So we did. We put together a forward base, bringing in food, water, generators, light towers, everything that we could to help support that area from Tampa down. And we figured that was a pretty safe area. So we set up that base, and we also set up another forward base at Horse Park, not far from the area we were at. Go ahead. So I didn't download all the pictures, but FEMA showed up as well, and we had this huge parking lot. Go ahead and hit it one more time. And after we picked all the debris up out of there, you can see one generator unit over there, and we started stacking in generator units, pumps, water pumps, you name it was there. FEMA came in, and they were bringing in all the supplies, so we were working closely with FEMA. Go ahead. So what happened was, I went there as a logistics chief, which we're certified, and we had a lot of talent on our team. But very few people knew how to work WebEOC. I opened my mouth and said, I know how to work it. So that's what I did for 3 days right there, is running orders through the state, constantly ordering everything for the base and for food. And pretty frustrating on the communication level here and there. Naturally, it's a disaster. The state's trying to talk to the county's trying to talk to us, and it was back and forth. This was in N.M.P.M County. So we got it up and running, I think, in 3 to 4 days. They were really happy with our team. They said we knocked it out of the park, so they said, with that, you're moving. So go ahead. So we went from Ocala all the way down to Arcadia, which is in DeSoto County. And in Arcadia, we were going to put together another LSA because we did such a great job. We're going to set it up at this airport. We spent a day and a half there getting ready to set it up. We were already bringing in orders. I'd already talked to the EOC managers in DeSoto County. And the state said, nope, you're moving. You're going to the islands. So, next slide. We then traveled down to Fort Myers, where we went to they call it a BOO, all these terminology, base of operations, a BOO. So we showed up at the BOO, we got organized, we got our mission, and they said, from there, you're going to start transporting and go straight across to the islands. So the next slide is we ended up at Port Comfort, and in Port Comfort, which is all of this is Lee County. And we showed up in Port Comfort to get our mission to go to the island, and we ended up spending a day there helping them with staging, bringing in more equipment, trying to get emergency equipment on a barge to get it across to the island. Because that bridge right there between Port Comfort and coming into Sanibel was completely destroyed. So the only way across was one barge. We ended up getting 3 other barges. We started ordering more equipment, So we helped them for a day to organize that. And then the next slide, we boated over. This is the Lee County Sheriff's Outreach Community Center floating down the street. That was right after the hurricane hit. And that storm surge was anywhere from 8 foot to 12 foot in all this area. Fort Myers got hit really bad, and so did the islands. So because politically, I guess, which was fine with all of us, the islands were forgotten about. And the governor said, go. So we went out to the islands. So we were the main team out on the islands. Next slide. So we were bringing in all equipment from all around. I've got tons of slides, but this is about the one I was showing. We had everything from type 1s to tenders to 3,000 gallons tenders to, it goes on and on and on. And we're trying to load them on that barge and get them across. So that was kind of an interesting logistics task. So next slide. We ended up on these islands. So we based out of Sanibel at the bottom there, and we worked Sanibel Island, and then to get to Captiva, we would drive across the road, small bridge, and we'd play in Captiva. But the next island up between Cayo Costa and Captiva is called Upper Cap, or Upper Captiva, or they call it Northern Captiva. And that's my job, was to take care of Captiva and North Captiva. And you couldn't get to North without a boat. So every day we would boat across there and play. And I call it play. We were doing debris management. We were making sure we had photos, making sure the search and rescue marks on the doors were correct, looking at the debris out there, figuring out how we're going to do that, making sure the wastewater plants are up and running, make sure potable's up and running. The main power for the Sanibel Island goes across the Captiva on poles, and then it goes under the water over to the northern Captiva. And all that power was out. So we started working in that for the last 7 days. Next slide. So we encountered roadways that were completely gone. We had to detour around. This is not uncommon in these hurricanes. And when the hurricane hit, it impacted mainly Sanibel more and Fort Myers. The other two islands got hit, and there's storm surge around 8 foot, but Fort Myers and Sanibel on that, I guess, west coast, we're talking 12, 13 foot surge, wiping out all the, they're on the stilts, but they still wiped out the bottom floors. So a lot of people, a lot of debris, and a lot of road damage. Go ahead on the next one. This other road, we're driving along, and I thought, oh, there's a little dark spot in the road. And we stopped, thank God, because there was no road. So we ended up putting up signs, and all your sewer lines, everything else is busted in some of these areas. Next slide. So there's parts of homes and houses up in trees. The tornadoes are coming down out of the hurricane and wiping some areas and going back up. And it was constantly hitting that island. So next slide. We saw a lot of boats either on a road or sunk. Pretty devastating, pretty sad. A lot of stuff out there, and there's nothing we can do or nothing anybody can do until the recovery phase started. Next slide. So we have homes that are pretty damaged, and some are right next to them are not damaged at all. So the wind shear and stuff that's going on in that hurricane was amazing. The next slide. So this guy called his buddy 2 blocks away and said, "Are you missing a boat?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, it's in my yard." It floated right over and sat right down. We were finding equipment, cars, everything just kind of scattered with that storm surge. Go ahead. This is Captiva, the island of Captiva, and we were working with the sheriff of Lee County and the fire chiefs. And those guys knocked it out of the park. Those fire guys had all the roads on the islands cleared within 48 hours, and there was debris everywhere. I'll show you some slides. And, who else to ask? Where's your infrastructure? Where's your, docks? Where's your water treatment plant? They knew it all. So the first thing I did was contact all the fire chiefs and assistant chiefs and spent time with them, a couple hours, and I already knew where everything was at, and then I'd go around and photograph and document all the damage. Go ahead. So the wind was blowing. We saw numerous tree trunks that were completely ripped out of the ground. Next slide. There's another home. Debris everywhere. Next slide. And then that boat floated in from, I don't know, 1.5 miles away, ended up right there at the cafe in Bayside, off the marina there. Next slide. So you're looking at this kind of debris that people are moving out and setting on the roadside.
Maybe it didn't belong there.
Yeah.
Did that propane tank belong there, or did it just show
No,
up?
it didn't belong there.
Okay.
We found tanks floating all over the place and yeah, they just dislodged. Next slide. So this is the island of North Captiva, or they call it Upper Cap, and you got to get to it by boat. And this is, they have a lot of homes, that's the south end of it, and they got minor damage on that, but they also have a lot of water damage because of that storm surge. So we had to work that island, and you could get to this, but the state land is in between the north and the south, and trying to get there, it was too devastated. We needed like a D8 in there. So we ended up boating around to the south end to recon that area. Go ahead. So this is what you see in a driveway. People haven't come back home. We've got trees that are flipped up, uprooted, blown across several roads. Next slide. So there's that same one, I think. Next slide. So this is what was on the road, and this is what the fire guys cleaned up. And this was all along all the main roads along the islands. Just debris everywhere. So managing that is a long-term recovery for sure. Next slide. And this is the other issue. You can see those black bags. That's household garbage bags mixed with the debris. And we saw those bags starting to swell within 3 days with the heat and the humidity. And we were trying to get the county to start picking out the black bags. The problem is some of the islands, we told them to separate them, and we could come and get the black bags, and then we can get, the debris later. And some people, one of the islands did really well. The other ones, they didn't heat to it. So now we got mixed debris, which is very difficult. And these things will explode, I'm sure, within a week. It's just hot, nasty out there. So heavy debris management issues. Next slide. So that's what we're seeing on one of the islands. They separated their piles, which is pretty easy. A lot of people working out there. Next slide. And then you got houses like that. We saw one that was completely burned to the ground. It caught on fire during it. Next slide. That's right on the beach. That one got ripped up pretty good. That's actually Captiva Island. Next slide. And then numerous cars alongside the road, flipped upside down. Some of them are up against the trees. That water surge just picked them up. They turned them in driveways, pulled them out of carports and shoved them into trees. And we drove by one place in this guy's garage, and his car was sideways in that garage. I don't know how it's going to be fun trying to get that out. But that wind was blowing so hard, it turned the car inside the garage. We're talking some massive wind. Go ahead. These power poles, you can't quite see them. They're all laying down. Those are concrete posts in Florida. They're like this square with rebar. And they're broke right in half. They're broke at the base. They're laying down everywhere. You can see some of the electric company working. The last 2 days there, they fixed the bridge with sand to get all the electric company. 700 electric trucks came on there. And they're knocking it out of the park. They said by October 20th, they'll have power restored to Sanibel. That's one heck of a feat, because that's what it looked like all the way down. Just poles laying over and everything laying on the ground. Next slide.
But the wooden poles across the street held, didn't they?
They did, some of them, and they're replacing them with wood poles because you can't afford the concrete.
Yeah, it's the flex in the pole.
Yeah. They did stay up there. So some of the heavy devastation in some of the residents, and then right next door to them, they're not too bad. Next slide. We had numerous boats in the pier. I couldn't download my camera. It had some heavy equipment boats, large pontoon boats, and they're up on the dock like somebody picked them up and sat them on the post. And just boats all tangled and completely wiped out at Port Comfort when we were there. And that's kind of what we were seeing, the same type of damage everywhere. I have a blank in there, so go to the next one, and then there we go. Same damage. Some houses were flattened, some weren't. Next one. And that's about it. I didn't want to get too much in the disaster area, but this was our team, and that was Lee County on the far left. The gal in the blue shirt, she was part of Lee County, and we were kind of taking orders from the county, and then we were taking orders from the state, and the communication was difficult to find out what they really wanted us to do, but we did accomplish debris management. We checked all the 3 islands. We were on Pine Island as well, and Cayo Costa, but mainly those 3 islands. And that's what they wanted us there for, so we did a lot of photographs, a lot of damage. Damage assessment teams is what we were doing. Also checking, for any issues out there. Helping people. They're walking in that heat, and they weren't allowed to stay on the properties, so they would walk back and forth from the ferry boat in 85-degree weather. And honestly, it's probably 130% humidity out there. And so we're picking up little old ladies and young ladies and anybody and getting them in the razors, UTVs, drive them where they need to go, and then we search the area as we go. So we were constantly helping people. They were impressed. They were saying, "You came from Colorado?" I said, "Yeah, we're here to help." They were just ecstatic. So everybody helped everybody out there. It was really good. So thank you for letting me go. I learned what to do, and I learned what not to do in these type of circumstances, and what worked and didn't work in any kind of disaster. Learned a lot about communicating in a disaster where the state and the county sometimes don't get on the same page. You had some freelancers out there, which could be difficult. But thank you guys for letting me go. I'll never forget it. It was a good experience, good learning experience. So appreciate that. I thank Vicki for holding down the fort. And more to come. I got like 80 pictures on my phone, and I came back with 790 total. So mainly documents, because everywhere you go, you can't write with a pen. Your paper is all limp because of the humidity, so you're just taking photos of everything and then making your reports. So it's a good 16 hours a day, 15 hours a day. The old man kept up, did pretty good. So, any questions? It was a good team. We bonded well. It was all type A. Everybody wanted to do something. So it was blowing and going, moving bags at least 20 times from one car to a place to sleep. Sleep on the ground, you sleep at the college, you get bunk beds, you get the trailer beds, which are 2 bunks, then you get the submarine ones, we call them, or the 3 bunks where you just roll in and roll out. So yeah, it was pretty good. Totally different than a fire, because our fire team that went with us, most of those guys are type 1 or type 2 fire guys, and they were saying, "Does this always happen?" I said, "Yeah, you don't know what you're going to do. You go help, and finally the last 7 days, you settle in where they really want you." So worked pretty good. So
Good deal.
yeah.
All right.
There you have it.
Okay.
Any questions?
No. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, next we'll hear from a fire guy. Come on up. CFPD.
Morning.
Come on in. It's okay. Don't be nervous.
Okay.
Remember, you're just in front of a shooting gallery, so
Right.
don't be nervous.
Yeah, I'm ready for that question. So Cortez Fire calls for the month of September, 251 calls. 35% of those are overlapping, and I know former Chief Balfour kind of talked about that, where the overlapping calls, we get a call when we still have a call active. So total incidents for the year were, as of today, 2679, and we're staying right on track for 35% of our calls being overlapping. I'm gonna find the report. I know that it is available where we have a three-peat. That happened twice in the last couple weeks where we had 3 calls active at the same time.
Are those mostly EMS calls?
It is, yeah. Actually, one of those was a car wreck and then 2 EMS calls that were happening simultaneously. So, 462 hours for training in September. The Montezuma County Fire Chiefs Association, I don't know if you guys can act on this today or if we need to make an agenda item for next week. We are going to, the Montezuma County Fire Chiefs Association is gonna fund a countywide extrication class. That's gonna be held next March 11th and 12th. My ask is that we host that at the fairgrounds. We went, this morning I went and talked to Justin. We kind of looked at different options out there. And he asked that I come before you guys and see if you would entertain waiving the fees for renting of the archery room for Saturday, the 11th, and then Sunday, the 12th would be all hands-on training. We have 3 school buses that we're gonna cut apart and probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 cars. So trying to think central for all the fire districts in Montezuma County, including Rico and West Fork. The fairgrounds seemed like it would be a good option, and it's pretty wide open in that parking lot to the west of the arena. So we would like to host that class there. We're flying instructors in from Atlanta and Tampa. They own, Lee Hollins is the gentleman who owns the company. They've taught at FDIC for the last 25 years. So that's where we're at. We're just trying to figure out a location, and I thought that the fairgrounds would be a good spot. So I don't know if Justin said there was a fee, like something $25 an hour.
There is a fee, but instead of trying to move on something like that today, this is something that we would get with Justin.
Okay.
He can bring it forward to us at a work session, so on a Monday, that way you can actually have the proposal in front of us.
Okay,
Everything that you're actually going to do,
okay,
and lay out the plan, and then we make decisions on Tuesday. So until we've really seen the proposal laid out to us on a Monday workshop where we can really sit down and ask all the questions that we need to ask,
Sure.
we won't probably move on it today, but
Okay.
we can put it on a workshop
Okay.
with that fairgrounds manager here,
perfect.
okay?
Yeah, and he did say he would get me a contract and everything, so I will get a hold of him, and then we'll try and get on a Monday and come back and chat more.
Sounds
Any
good.
questions for me?
No, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
No? See, that wasn't so painful.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, last but not least. Least just showed up. Good morning.
I have some statistics that I emailed, just sort
I
of what's
didn't-
going on.
I didn't see him.
I didn't get him.
Clarissa, make sure that mic's on, please.
There, now it is.
Okay.
Thank you. Just overall, kind of besides the statistics, is we are still short-staffed on attorneys. One that we were counting on, she was not able to pass the bar this time. Yeah, so, nobody's gonna be as frustrated at her as she is with herself, which is reasonable. She was recovering from COVID, and if you guys have had it, you know that brain fog is legitimate, and so I think that's probably part of it. So we have her doing some extensive attorney support in the interim. She can do a lot of things that our support staff can't, and so we're having her kind of be in between, still trying to support the attorneys. She just can't appear in court and file things, but I mean, she's obviously great at drafting motions, plea offers, that kind of stuff that the legal assistants just don't have the experience to do and aren't
Is she here right now?
certified to.
Is she here?
Yeah,
Is she- good.
yeah, she's working still, so, we'll give her a little bit of time off come February to study again, but she's here, she's working. So I am open to any suggestions or ideas that you guys may have. I have spent thousands of dollars on advertising and have tried Indeed, colleges, bar associations across the nation, ZipRecruiter, Monster Jobs. I have tried all those things. So I have an email into the District Attorney's Council and the AG's office to see if they can potentially help us with some of our larger cases at least. I know Matt wants to be able to say that he can handle them on his own, but I know that he can't and needs help at least. So we've had the AG come down before and assist with large cases, and considering we have 3 homicide cases right now, I think that's probably warranted. So I'm pushing for that. And it's interesting because you'll see our statistics, like our numbers are down a little bit, but I think we have increase in seriousness of cases. We've had a ton of child sex assaults, and like I said, our 3 murder cases that we're dealing with right now. And so I think that we're getting more complex cases that are a little more time consuming. Our diversion program has been running amazing, so we can knock out those simple traffic cases really quickly. And so that's been helpful. We have an amazing diversion program that's brought on a couple more positions, so they have more staff to help with just those first hearings for traffic tickets that they can just deal with, and the attorney's a little more hands-off. So that's been helping some, but getting ready to be on the verge of crisis mode if we get too many more.
It sounds like everybody's having the same issues throughout the state.
Yes, and
So it's not,
no,
a
it's not unique to
problem
our
to
area.
us.
And it was interesting because last year, our summer intern that we got from CSU, he was telling us in his classes that there's this shift that people are of the mindset that they want to help and, you know, defeat the man, get justice, that kind of thing. There's this shift in that. But what a lot of them are understanding is your power is in prosecution. We have the power to dismiss a case if we don't think it was, you know, a just case, or if the facts aren't there or something like that. And so it's been interesting to see this movement of everybody going to defense and wanting, you know, to fight the power that way, but that's not where the power's at. So I don't know what, I've been brainstorming with a lot of the other administrators throughout the state, and we're all on the same page. I'm a little salty with La Plata County. We invited a lady down, interviewed her. La Plata snagged her up. I think they offered her probably a little bit more than we were making, and you know, to be fair, she was from the Denver area anyway, so I think Durango appealed to her slightly more. But yeah, it's been a struggle for everybody, is what it sounds like. So we're all trying to get some creative solutions going, but I am running out of ideas.
Have you guys posted ads on the college job boards, on the law school job boards? We had a lot of luck with that when we were looking.
Yep, college, all of the major universities within the 4 states. I think I've even reached out to like Montana, and I'm trying to be strategic in how I do this, in that I don't know that I necessarily want large city type advertisements. I'm trying to get people that are used to rural areas, or they want to come to Colorado. So like people from states that are attracted to Colorado. Texas is a hard one because people are attracted to Colorado from Texas, but they don't like the increase in housing costs. So I haven't advertised a lot in Texas. New Mexico, Arizona, they like Colorado, and the housing isn't a shock to them. And then the East Coast as well. The housing's not a sticker shock to them either. So I've been trying to be strategic in where I advertise as well to try to get that pool of people that would be willing to relocate. But yeah, all the major universities, several bar associations, and then, like I said, all the other just online stuff. So I'm not sure. But
Is there a state program? I know in Nebraska, there was a state program that if an attorney went to work like in a rural area for like 3 or 4 years, the state picked up a portion of their tuition.
so they qualify for, and I'm sure Ian probably knows a little bit better, it's something like public servant.
Public service loan forgiveness. So if
Right.
you work for certain public service agencies, I think you have to work, it's a pretty long period of time
It's
though. I
10
think you
years.
have to do 10 years.
Yeah, but I don't think it has to be, because we've had some people that they kind of bounce around a little bit, and as long as it's 10 years, cumulative, then it works. So that's one of our perks. And then in August, we'll qualify and be able to get another summer intern. We've had some luck in the past that the summer interns that we get, it's every other year. So we skipped this summer, and I think last summer actually for COVID, well, no, because we did have him. He left last summer. They did skip a year because of COVID, but he ended up, he didn't want to be a prosecutor anymore. He wanted to be a teacher, so he's teaching at CSU. But we have had luck in retaining those and employing them full-time after their internship with us. So we'll get that in August, and we're hopeful for that. But just that time frame between now and February bar, when our other individual is able to take the bar again, and potentially August, those are our concerning months that I know Matt is panicked about. So I'm just still trying. I've been talking to a recruiter company, so that's what we're looking at next. But
The real tricky part about the loan forgiveness is you've got to do 10 years, but if you fall short of that 10 years, you basically go into a status where you make minimum payments, and a lot of people, the interest starts to build up.
yeah,
And then if you don't make the 10-year mark and you want to go into, say, a private firm that's going to pay a lot more, then you're kind of up against it. So it's
Yeah.
a calculated gamble whether you just want to try to pay those things down or take the forgiveness.
and that is one thing that we're kind of running into at the moment. I don't know if you guys are familiar with alternate defense counsel, is where it's somebody that's eligible for a public defender, but the public defender has some kind of conflict on the case. So they're still eligible to be represented by free counsel. The state hires and contracts private attorneys to handle those type of cases. Somebody that works 20 hours a week for alternate defense counsel is making the same wage as our attorneys that are putting in, 40 to 50 hours a week. So that's something that's really hard to compete with as well. And, obviously at budget presentation, we mentioned a little bit, well, I think Matt mentioned a little bit, the pay wages are just, they're skyrocketing at a rate that is hard for rural areas to keep up with. And that is a portion of it as well. I was shocked to learn originally, I think last year at our budget meeting, our lowest paying entry-level attorney was a little bit higher, it was like $2,000 or $3,000 higher than Durango. That's not the case anymore. And then I learned that alternate defense counsel attorneys for 20 hours a week are making what our 8-year seasoned attorneys are making, which is sad. They love the job, thank goodness, and they're here and they, stick it out with us and whatnot. But it's a real conversation that we're going to have to address at some point. So, not the year for it. We've already set budget, but
No,
It's
it's
every
something that
department,
we talk
every-
about all the
It's-
time.
I know.
It's a
We're-
fact, that you can, as a defense lawyer, you can usually make a lot more money on the outside than working for the system.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll just keep trying to get that
We've
sales
been
tax
talking
on the
about it
ballot.
for the last 2 years, the rising costs and declining revenue.
Yep.
And we get
Every
it.
department that we have is-
I know.
absolutely get it.
Yeah. Oh,
So-
it's the community. It's not even just the county and
No,
their
it's
departments.
the entire community.
Yeah,
So
all
at some point in
industries.
time, and that time is rapidly approaching,
Yep, it's coming to a head.
that we've got to,
That
something
rubber
has
band's
got to
gonna snap.
change, or
Mhm.
the services are just going to be dwindled.
And that's,
I mean, we've already looked at all of our fee structures. We're trying to keep
Right.
up with just to maintain a zero so that we're not bleeding to death.
Right.
That's not, you know.
Yeah. We find a
it's-
little
it's a
bit here and
decision
there.
that we have to do and make, but I totally understand that. We're seeing that within the countywide.
I know,
You
and
know,
I know I'm
everybody
preaching to the
will-
choir.
Leave and take a better job or more pay, and
Mhm.
I totally understand that too.
Yeah.
I can't, because they're looking at rising and increasing costs to them also, so.
And what we're looking at, we've put together a few like emergency plan A, plan B, plan C kind of things. And so, you know, it may result in, we were gonna talk, one jurisdiction, which I thought was really interesting, is, their traffic cases, there's a lot of cases that they write into municipal court so that basically the officers in municipal handle it. So that's one of our options that we're kind of looking at. And then, you know, offering diversion, not, because we have pretty wide guidelines for who's eligible for diversion, but, and it's very strict on like no violent crimes, and I don't think we would ever move to that. But maybe just expanding our diversion program for other certain types of crimes. Again, I don't know that any of us would feel comfortable moving it, you know, to violent crimes, but maybe there's some low-level drug offense or something that we can figure out some kind of sentencing that still helps them, but still gets it off of the docket. So those are some of the things that we've kind of been brainstorming and, like I said, coming up with our emergency plan A, plan B type stuff, so. But I'm waiting to hear from the state and see if they can send us somebody to at least help with a couple of the large cases, and see if that helps.
The AG was here yesterday. Were you able to talk to him?
No, we had crisis mode yesterday with
Oh.
court, so everyone was consumed
Okay.
with one of our murder cases yesterday,
Well, we'll
so,
let
as
you
Travis got to experience.
What's that?
Is you got to experience.
Yeah, I
Pulling
think I'm
us
part of
into
those 3 homicide cases.
You are.
Yeah, all
So
right,
lucky.
great.
So we'll have to steal him occasionally. I apologize.
Okay.
But anyway, I don't know if anyone had any other questions, but just kind of where we're at the moment.
I wish I had some
Wish I had an answer.
grandiose, yeah,
I know. Yeah, and that's,
solution for you, but I don't.
like I
mean, we're-
said, we keep brainstorming with the other jurisdictions and see if anyone comes up with something that works, but we just all plug away for the time being, so. But
Okay.
that's it.
How much does the AG's office really take on when it comes to this kind of stuff?
So my experience in the past, when we've had them come on, is it depends on how much control you want to give them. So one of the cases, Mr. First, it was just something he had never dealt with, and it was a very unique circumstance, and it dealt with investigating and prosecuting an employee at the sheriff's office, and so it was you know, complicated to begin with. And we asked the AG, we need you to take full control over this. Yeah, I think it was Will's either first or second year as a DA, and so he didn't have a lot of experience anyway. And so he would consult with us and just be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm looking at, this is how I've gone through it, this is what I would do. How do you guys want to handle that? Like, here's my suggestions. And so it just depends on the level of autonomy, you know, the DEA wants to give them, but they are willing to take it on full blast if we ask them to. So it's usually case specific with the AG. So in our scenario where we have a couple cases we could probably use help on, I'm not exactly sure how that'll work out, because I've only ever experienced, we have them come on for a specific case. But my experience in the past, they've been really great. They help all the staff go through, like, this is what you should look for, this is how we should be organizing this is what you should ask law enforcement for. I learned a lot the first time I ever experienced that. I know Will did as well. And so I think it's valuable to have someone with that kind of experience come into our office and show us, you know, this is how you handle a big boy case. So, not that Matt hasn't dealt with any, because he does obviously have, 8+ years as a prosecutor at this point, but I think there's a lot to learn, and they're happy to show us, or they're more hands-off, and just, if you want me to show up to a hearing and just be a body, you tell me what to say, I'm fine with that too. And they really just work with us in whatever we ask for. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay.
No.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You
Matt
can
apologizes, can't be here, but
Continue to your crisis.
yes, thank you. Headed back to.
Thanks, Clarissa. Okay, next on our agenda, we have our unfinished business, which we have the Southern Health Providers Program and contract discussion, which we've already given that to Ian to discuss. That'll be on our unfinished business next week. And then we also have a resolution appointing a county zoning official.
And so, gentlemen, what this is a resolution appointing a zoning official for Montezuma County. The reason that we need to do this in our land use enforcement cases, the statute talks about having a designated zoning official. That person has to be designated by resolution. I looked back through all of our old resolutions. I couldn't find any place that we ever did this. I'm not sure whether that was because we didn't bring a lot of complaints under the land use code, or it was just something that wasn't done. It's kind of in a little obscure place in the statute, but my recommendation is that we appoint Don Haley as the zoning official. He is our planning and zoning director. I think it makes sense, and the way I wrote the resolution, I wrote it in a way that we'll appoint Don Haley and then any other future planning and zoning director. So the hope is that, in the future, if for some reason a new planning and zoning director came on, then they would step into the role of zoning official for purposes of the statute. Basically, what the zoning official is authorized to do is to send those letters that we've been sending.
Okay. Questions, comments?
No,
I don't have any problem. You okay?
I'm fine.
I moved, we approve resolution number 12-2022. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County is committed to enforcing the Montezuma Land Use Code and will appoint Don Haley as the individual serving as the capacity of the planning director as our county zoning official.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sign and accept resolution number 12, 2022, a resolution appointing zoning official for Montezuma County, Colorado, which would be our planning director, Don Haley, at this point in time. Any other discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Yeah.
And then another one that is actually not on here, and I'm gonna bring it up. I know Ian's probably gonna get angry with me, but I'm gonna bring it up anyway. We had this in front of us, about a month ago. We had a fair board appointment, and we had a couple of letters. Do you still have those, Travis? We need to make that appointment, because the fair board, again, I believe they had their meeting last night, and their treasurer, right? Dustin is resigning because he's no longer, he can no longer serve, which puts them a member short and an alternate. So, is that okay? We already had the letters that were submitted to us, Ian. They are short. Do we want to go ahead and appoint that board? We discussed this a couple weeks ago also with other appointments that we had Kim gonna do the research for us for all of the other boards that we also have to appoint, because we're kind of behind on some of them.
My suggestion would be to put it on the agenda for next week, but I understand there's time constraints as well. So.
Well, and I understand that as far as the other appointments, but do we want to go ahead and, so you want to put it as an absolute agenda item that we've already discussed it, it's already been in public, and it's not like we're not being transparent.
I think if we're gonna make an appointment, it's always best practice to have it on the agenda.
Okay. Well then, Kim, are you ready with all of the other appointments? So then we should go ahead and put that under unfinished business for, we can make all of the appointments at one time then, Travis. I just don't want to let it get away from us, because then it's just one other thing that gets away from us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that then, we'll go into our county attorney's report.
So I have some updates on the Ironwood case, and before I get into the specifics, there's been a lot of discussion or a lot of questions in the public about what's happening with Ironwood, what's going on, what are we doing. You know, we can certainly, as a county, talk about a lot of what's going on with Ironwood. Folks need to understand that there's ongoing litigation between the county and Ironwood, though, and so we can't share everything. I mean, there's certain things, settlement discussions, certain legal strategies that we work on that simply can't be shared with the public. Same with documents. Some of the documents that have been filed in this case are available for public viewing. Folks can go down to the courthouse and make requests for those documents. Other documents are going to be protected, and so folks aren't going to have access to every filing in the case, but certain filings would be available if individuals were interested. Where we're at this point in time, as I said last week, the complaint was filed against Ironwood on September 26th for violations of the Solid Waste Act and for violating the compliance order that Ironwood entered into with CDPHE and Montezuma County. Ironwood has filed their answer to that complaint. That was due on the 14th of October, and that's when that was filed, so that was just filed last Friday. You know, at this point, the answer it's just a formality more than anything, where they admit or deny the allegations in the complaint, and that kind of kicks off the civil process. In addition to that, the county and CDPHE filed a motion for a preliminary injunction. That was filed on the 17th, so just yesterday. What that does is that requests that Ironwood come back into compliance with the compliance order that they signed. It also requests that they cease violating the Solid Waste Act. They're going to have an opportunity to respond to that, and then that motion will be set for hearing. Just so everybody in the public's aware, where Ironwood's at this point relative to the compliance order that was signed. They were required to have the piles separated into 4 separate piles with 30-foot barriers in between each pile by October 10th. That obviously hasn't happened, and they're out of compliance there. The next benchmark for Ironwood is by November 9th to have the pile, 25% of the material removed from the pile, in addition to having the separations. Obviously, Ironwood's working on removing the material. They've removed a good deal of the material. The county has received load receipts for a lot of that material. I think it's still short of the 25% that's required by the compliance order, and so they're still working in that direction. At this point in time, what I can say is that CDPHE and Montezuma County are committed to continuing to put pressure on Ironwood. We're going to continue to move things forward in the courts. We're going to continue to encourage cleanup. Again, Ironwood's had a lot of time to deal with this, and they did enter into this compliance order. It's imperative that they comply with the compliance order, and we're going to continue doing everything that we can to make that happen. The legal process obviously doesn't happen overnight, but the county's committed to moving this forward, and CDPHE is as well. They've been a great partner for us. They've been a huge help, and so we're going to keep pushing forward. Other than that, it's been a busy week just from a standpoint of day-to-day stuff. A lot of planning and zoning issues come up. Some of that has to do with education and just folks not necessarily being aware of what's in the land use code, and other stuff is bigger questions. We've also got some civil matters that are ongoing. but nothing significant has happened in those cases as of this time. That's all I have to report.
Okay. Thank you, Ian, and I really appreciate that. You know, one of the emails that we did receive that, you know, people want to have all these documents, and just like you stated, all of the documents that we have cannot, they're not public documents until they become public. At that point in time, there is a way to pull a core request and get anything you want, whether it's from us or a court system. So that education hopefully is out there, and if you want something, you know how to go about getting it. But everything that we have that is public can be requested. Thanks for the update, Ian, I appreciate it.
And Commissioner, just real quick, one other thing I would add. You know, sometimes when you're involved with litigation, you don't necessarily want to be litigating everything right in the public eye. I mean, it's not because of a lack of transparency or anything else, but there are strategic decisions that are made, and there are things that move forward. And so obviously some of it's public and some of it's not. But you know, sometimes you don't want to just be right out.
No, I get it.
Fighting those
I
battles.
think our statement that we can make is that we are moving forward with Ironwood along with CDPHE, and the process is in play. And I know there's probably more that people want, but there's just what we can share, and we will share it at that point in time. All right, I see James walked in the room. Come on down.
Morning.
Morning.
So the main thing I've got this morning is 2 letters of support that have been requested of the county. The first one is a letter of support for the Dolores Ranger District. This is the CPW Motorized Trail Grant. We typically sign a letter of support every year on this. This year we'll focus on the Calico Trail and doing some work up on that. It'll also include the Dozer 24 project, and again, that's something that they ask for every year, and it pays for basically a dozer to complete the heavy maintenance operations. It also includes a trail crew, and that would be with the Southwest Youth Corps again, and that would be the Good Management Trail Crew 20. So that would be the first letter of support that Forest Service has requested. The second letter that I've got is a letter of support for the Mancos Conservation District, and they're planning to apply for a grant, the Forest Restoration and Wildfire Risk Mitigation Grant. And this is, it's essentially supposed to be kind of a companion grant to some of the COSWAP and CFLRP work that we're currently working on. What it would do is provide some dollars for doing work within the wildland-urban interface, and particularly focused on private lands. And so anyway, that would be the request, is for support for both of these letters.
Okay.
I move we sign this CPW motorized trail grants. I don't see a number or anything on it. Between Montezuma County and the Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign a letter of support between Montezuma County in regards to the CPW motorized trail grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I would also move we sign the letter of support between Farm Montezuma County supporting the Mancos Conservation District submission for the Forest Restoration and Wildfire Risk Mitigation Grant Program.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to also sign a letter of support for the Colorado State Forest Service, RE, the Forest Restoration Wildfire Mitigation Grant, FRWRM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
I guess, just to update you for what's going to happen the rest of the week here, I participated in a CWPP stakeholder meeting yesterday. We were trying to generate, basically, we're trying to flush out the list of project work so that when we come forward with one of these grant proposals, we know what projects we got to work on. And so that's all interrelated and connected. We also will have a dwarf coordination committee meeting this week. And I'll also be working on the outdoor recreation grant, trying to get the wheels rolling on that, and also the affordable housing grant. So looking forward to a busy week.
okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Bet.
James.
Thank you.
Travis?
Yeah, been a very busy week with day-to-day activities. However, I just want to confirm that BOCC received the proposed 2023 budget on the 14th. So that was submitted. Just want to remind you, gentlemen, October 31st, Dolores Community Center, we're going to have that 5x5 breakfast, the board. So if you gentlemen can make it, that would be great.
What's that?
Basically, go ahead.
7 a.m., right?
I'll have to check, 7 or 8, yeah. For the 31st.
Where at?
7
At
or 8.
the Dolores Community Center.
Okay.
Dolores is hosting it this time, so. Basically, again, on the day-to-day activities, had a good meeting with Drew Sanders from the city. Had coffee, talked about activities that we're both, city and county, are involved in, how we can assist each other in moving forward. They're going to be doing some great things, and but we'll let them address that with the community, and that's pretty much it. Basically, budget all week, and now we're going to be doing more budget, so it's not over.
Yeah. Thank you, Travis. Okay, Commissioner Lindsay.
Okay. Last Tuesday, I attended the city council meeting. They did a lot of renewals for liquor licenses and marijuana cultivation and sales, renewals on their applications. But they did one thing that's pretty impressive down there. They presented the city's current debt position, and they are going to try and retire all of the city's debt at one time with excess funds, which I thought was pretty good. They also approved a ground lease with Classic Air Medical for a hangar at the Cortez Municipal Airport, awarded a bid for addition to the jury room down at the building down here, their city hall, and they're still looking at a public hearing on October the 25th for their food truck vendors. And what was the last thing? Also, their density zones in their P&Z for AUDs they're going to take a look at. Was in and out of there a pretty good time. They ran a really good meeting that night. Also had some phone calls related to some planning issues. And just to remind again that we are a quasi-judicial governing board up here, and attempts to influence us one way or another are not too welcome. So please not try and influence us, that some people do. So, and also I'd like to report that at the Empire board meeting on Friday, there will be an outage in Memphis to restore that transformer that blew here a couple months back. And the outage is probably going to be the 9th of November from about 11:30 in the evening to about 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember the exact times, but people will be notified at least 3 times over there. So be advised your power is going to go out, and hopefully that transformer will take up where it left off and get to running. And also, on a side note, Empire Electric's been looking at rates. There is no rate increase forecasted for the 2023 budget in Empire Electric Service District. So we are struggling to hold rates down, but we've managed to do it once again. So, and also yesterday attended a session with Attorney General Weiser on data and fiber optic in the state of Colorado and especially in our county. And some problems with CDOT were hashed out and presented to him and some other things. So we had fun.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Copenhaver.
This last week, I attended the Mancus City Council meeting. They're dealing with budget and different applications for renewal, the same type of deal as the city of Cortez is at this present time. Last Wednesday, I was in a meeting with Southwest Water Conservation District all day. We did have a vote on support for the NCA. That board is made up of 9 counties, and 8 of the 9 counties voted to support the NCA. Montrose County did not vote to support it. They've had some different issues with this project, and so they did not support it, but the other 8 counties all supported to write a letter of support for the NCA and that legislation that's going through the Senate. So it's where that's at. Other than that, at Southwest, dealing with a lot of Colorado River issues and some of the things that are going on, and hopefully we can keep track of all that stuff and get Colorado set up because they're gonna renegotiate some of this stuff over the next few years, so it's gonna be a major issues as far as our water and supply and everything. So I did bring them up to speed on what Montezuma County was, why we were involved with the NCA and why we were supporting it. And actually their council, our council for that board and stuff, thought that was a good idea that I bring them up since I've been involved with it all this time, and why we originally started this whole process of developing an NCA and taking the wild and scenic off of that river and stuff. And she was very appreciative of the fact that we had got brought up to speed on what originally started this whole process of developing in that NCA and why it happened to begin with. So I think it was good.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, first thing I want to address is I think Ian did a great job of addressing the public comment for last week from, I believe it was Mr. Christensen, looking at my notes, as far as it relates to Ironwood. Thank you, Ian. I would like to address the lady, I think it was, I wrote it down, Kim Haas, and if I have that incorrectly, ma'am, I apologize, but Miss Kim, you brought up a situation that was, we had made to be determined on a Road 26 subdivision. We have actually looked at that. We will never do a to be determined again. Internally, we've discussed that. We will always set a date, and the dates will be then extended, or that position will be taken on those dates. So we are listening to everybody. However, things are always posted on Fridays for our agenda for the following meeting, and there is some due diligence, and I do think that is relatively easy to get to. I've looked at it several times on the website, and it seems like our meetings and our agendas are pretty easy to get to. So I don't think anybody out there are dummies, but we do live in a technological world, and things are posted. So again, a TBD date will not be submitted by this commission. I know we've talked about it, and the date will be set. To move through my report now, obviously a concern of mine right now is we'll get on the agenda are these other appointments of these boards that we need to make, cemetery boards, water boards, fair boards, etc. And we'll get those taken care of. I attended a TPR meeting last Thursday in Durango. A lot of what we had to do was looking over the 10-year plan. things are not gonna be added to the 10-year plan because we're gonna try to get it finished before anything else is prioritized on that plan. One of the issues that we're running into right now is that everything on that 10-year plan, we are somewhat concerned that we're not gonna get it completed just because of the elevated costs that everybody are receiving in the entire region. So we're working on that diligently, and we will try to get everything done for the Southwest TPR, which is Transportation Planning Region. We did hammer CDOT pretty hard. Commissioner Salka from La Plata County was there to give us an update on the broadband issues. So CDOT has two different divisions. One is a broadband division, and then they actually have the construction division, which does, you know, the maintenance in the roads and the construction portion of it. And the broadband, although is still part of CDOT, they're kind of a separate division. As Kent mentioned, we kind of hammered on the Attorney General pretty hard yesterday to make sure that those two divisions within CDOT are communicating so that we can use their right-of-ways and not have this frustration of not being able to get within CDOT's right-of-ways. I think that message was pretty clear yesterday, and that will be taken up through the Attorney General's office. We did not have a BOCC workshop yesterday because we were obviously meeting with the Attorney General, and then we had the road maps earlier that day for the resiliency roadmaps recovery for COVID. And I'm going off the top of my head, so I'm not sure if that's exactly right. But basically, the roadmap that they have laid out and a call to action of what we need to do, that was posted on our Facebook site, and there's a QR code there that you guys can look at and scan and get to that for more information. And I believe that is all that I have. And gentlemen, we have come to the end of our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the BOCC meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we will be back this afternoon at 1:30 as the E911 board. We will be discussing the RevCord system, the Vesta phone system, and the fees on the E911 fund. So we will be back at 1:30 as the E911 board.
Happy birthday to our county clerk, Kim Purcell.
Happy birthday.